Ben and I would sit in our apartment. I had lived in his laundry room. Okay. So he was in Chicago. So I moved to Chicago.
Founder stories are the best.
Yeah.
These are the best stories.
This was
Stories.
an epic laundry room. So don't get me wrong.
Laundry room in Chicago.
Laundry room in Chicago. I remember I came back with a friend one night, and we were walking through the apartment, and they didn't know that was my room. And we kind of walked in. In Chicago, there's this thing called 3 flats. So you like walk up. You basically have 1 floor, right? So we get to the top floor. We walk in through the back, and she kind of looks. She's like, "Oh, whose room is that?" I killed myself. I was like, "I have no idea."
Let's kick it off with who you are, what you do, where you do it, and then we'll get into the questions. Don't look at your questions. We'll get them there.
I can't read that fast.
Upside down.
Yeah. Yeah. So Josh Sutchar, that's my name. As far as like, who I am, our relationship has always been professional first. I think we became fast friends, but I work for a company called TrainHeroic. So we founded it 14 years ago. I'm still doing it, still having
14.
Fun.
Why did I think it was, that makes sense timeline wise, but I didn't know it was over a decade.
2011. Yeah, which is just nuts. Like, honestly, like I've always, like, I think 5 years ago or something, I used to say, we've been doing this for 10 years, and Ben will quickly, refute. Dude, it's not been 10 years, right? It's been 7.5. It's been 8. It's like, dude, it's been 10 years. And it's been 14 years. And it's like your baby. It's been a fun.
It's your baby's a teenager now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. With me, and it's
the voice has dropped.
Exactly. Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Has it always been Colorado?
No, we found it in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, like about 2 years into it. Frankly, like, we were just at the stage where we needed to do the thing for real or stop, because we couldn't deliver what our customers really needed and really wanted with any velocity, and so we needed to raise more money, and we ended up getting investment from a company called Training Peaks.
Okay.
Which I think a lot in your audience.
I've heard a lot of Training Peaks.
Yeah.
It is a well-loved application in the endurance side of life.
Yeah. Yep. So talk about, like, having a big brother. Training Peaks has been a big brother to us. They've shown us, like, hey, this is exactly what we've done right. This is what we've done wrong. This is, from a principle perspective, how we believe that this thing should be growing and should be.
Yeah.
So it's sped our growth up.
So, TrainHeroic, Training Peaks. What's up? What year was that?
2014.
And that was the move from Chicago
to Boulder at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, to Boulder, Colorado. And now, and anyways, like, it's been a journey. Like, we basically had worked in the same office, but like totally separate.
Okay.
The financial side of it was tied together, right? There was like one chairman who was helping to fund both groups, and like, I'd work across from somebody at Training Peaks, again, within the same office, and we'd have like casual conversations, but everything was done totally separate.
Yeah.
Training Peaks actually invested in us because they needed strength conditioning in their endurance platform.
Yeah.
Like, endurance athletes started training, they started lifting weights, and Training Peaks didn't understand from like a tech standpoint what components were important, what they needed, what they didn't. They had like very non-structured training in their app where you can like just program, like, you're familiar with TrainHeroic from a technical perspective. It's like everything was like a circuit.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that was like the vision for them is, hey, at some point, let's have these two things, let's have them collide.
So take like 10-year step back, right? So you're one of the founders. How? What? You're like, this is where we're going to start. We're going to create this software. We're going to get into tech. Like, how did that come about for you? I don't know this story.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I know the origin story of Josh, don't say future Sutchar, and TrainHeroic.
Well, I'll say this. Like, I think sometimes people will like see my title or something. Like, my wife Silvana said this the other day. I'm so proud of you. The reality is this: like, Ben Crookston created this in his own brilliant mind, and so him and I were playing football at the University of San Diego with Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh had this guy, Shannon Turley, there, who went on from there with Harbaugh to Stanford, and then goes on to win Strength Coach of the Year. He's this brilliant strength coach. And so we ended up being, 20 years old in an environment where we finally learned and knew what good strength conditioning was. And so when we graduated and went back to Chicago, where Ben was from, and I was from as well, we were doing our day jobs. Ben was a teacher at an inner city school in Chicago called Perspectives, and he was coaching his students also doing sports. And I was coaching at my alma mater. I was like strength coach for the high school, but I was an accountant to make money, and then I would go and do that. Anyways, and so Ben came to me and was like, dude, we need to teach people how the hell we're actually supposed to train. And what we should do is we should package what Turley was doing, what Roche was doing, who was the coach we had after Turley, and we should use an app, because apps were like, just like
become
at that time.
Yeah, it was becoming a thing.
Yeah. And we should put this all in an app, and we should teach kids how to train for football. The whole idea was like teach high school athletes how to train for football, and we were going to be the content creators. Then we were going to use this necessary evil, which was the tech, to deliver that. That was like the foundation of what TrainHeroic was. In the earliest of
So you guys weren't the tech side?
No. So
who's the tech side?
So we had a guy that we had played with, a teammate. This guy in California, who was in the Bay Area. He was in that world. We raised money under the assumption that he was going to join the team. So it was going to be the three of us. Yeah. And then, long story short, he ended up not coming out to Chicago. So we used that money and we contracted a group to build the original, to stand up TrainHeroic, to turn the vision into a product.
Do you have a picture of it on your wall of what the actual the first dollar bill, you have it framed, this is the first rendition of our training.
What's funny is this logo we paid $500 for.
Yeah.
Then Ben and I would sit in our apartment. I had lived in his laundry room. Okay. So he was in Chicago. So I moved to Chicago.
Founder stories are the best.
Yeah.
These are the best stories.
This was
stories.
An epic laundry room. So don't get me wrong.
Laundry room in Chicago.
I remember I came back with a friend one night, and we were walking through the apartment, and they didn't know that was my room. And we kind of walked in. In Chicago, there's this thing called 3 flats. So you walk up, you basically have 1 floor, right? So we get to the top floor, we walk in through the back, and she kind of looks, she's like, "Oh, whose room is that?" I killed myself. I was like, "I have no idea."
Yeah. Oh, Ben. Oh, gross.
Yeah. I remember
that. Kill myself.
There was a bed in there. It was a bed kind of nestled to the washer and dryer. But nonetheless, it was amazing. And actually, at the time, I actually realized that too. I'm like, this is awesome. This is so fun. We have everything.
You're 25.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
With the boys.
Yeah. It was
how to do the thing.
Yeah.
As you're an accountant in Chicago. Did you know Ben before did you guys just happen to be from Chicago, go to school, and you're like, oh, you're from Chicago? I'm from Chicago.
Yeah.
Did you just become best friends?
Kind of that. I was just a meathead football player, and I knew who Ben was because he was a really good quarterback. Okay. And so I'd see his name in the paper and whatever, and we ended up Ben was recruited directly by Harbaugh. Harbaugh was like, hey, you can come play quarterback here.
Yeah, quarterback guy with quarterback.
Exactly. And at the time we had this quarterback named Josh Johnson who's still playing in the league.
Yeah.
You're right. He's
no kidding.
Yeah. So
wow, this is wild.
Well, so Josh was ahead of Ben, and Ben was basically given Josh was a year older, Ben wasn't going to play over Josh.
Yeah.
And so Harbaugh was like, look, you'll be our backup quarterback, but let's get you on the field now, and you're going to play defensive back. He ended up getting a couple concussions really fast, and Ben was a really a 35 on his ACT kind of guy.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, this ain't working out.
Yeah.
And so we just we became fast friends because we were just 2 guys from Chicago, and just
in San Diego.
Did our thing in San Diego together.
You know, came back Cali swag.
No, I wasn't
strike you as a Cali guy.
Nah.
You're Boulder. You definitely seem like a Boulder guy though.
Really?
You got you got Colorado vibes.
I've got a little bit of influence. I've spent time in different places.
Such as Chicago. Not a lot of Midwest, but I get Boulder.
I lived in Korea for a year. It's all a amalgamation of.
How'd you end up in Korea?
That's a much longer podcast.
Would Korea pre-college, post-college?
12 years old. That was
12 years old.
Great.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That is the podcast. We'll do another one.
I'll fill you in.
Wild. Okay, so then you got the app. You're like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then you're living in a laundry room.
And we're just building the thing, because the reality is even today, right? We'll go and walk through, we're at the summit, we'll go and walk through the summit, you'll have conversations. And there's so many things, even for Ben and I, so many things that we wanted this technology to do, that we needed it to do, our vision for it. And it's so hard to meet that expectation, even though 2020
is probably the worst. How come it doesn't do this? I need this. That's
right.
Tough.
And frankly, those customers will guide you to exactly where you need to go, even though you think, it's here. No, it's actually, a slight left turn, a slight right turn, and so on and so forth. But we were in our, in this apartment, designing the thing, building the thing, learning, iterating, and we had this contracted firm that we were working with to do it. The reality is we both have kids. You wake up in the night when your baby's crying, and when it's your baby, in this case, it was the technology. Something wasn't going right. We were waking up trying to work on the thing, but we didn't have the capacity to do it. Not with a contracted firm. They don't work like that. Yeah. So we knew we needed to, anyways, that's why we ended up making that move, because we needed to do this in a more aggressive fashion. We had customers at this point who were paying us, and we wanted to be able to deliver.
So you made it for largely, I'm assuming, like the high schools that you were working at, right? Problem, let's set a solution.
Yeah.
How did you? I'm fascinated by like early business.
Yeah.
I think it's the best, right? Like the most learning. You can reflect back at it. Everything's typically done wrong, and you have to figure out how to do it better. It's such as everyone's career. How do you sell? Because you guys were one of the first apps, the delivery system. Like I was a personal trainer. I used Google Sheets. Yeah. That was literally, I think when it was me and Steve Leo, we tried close to a dozen softwares. And I'll always remember what you said. You said, we don't try to compete with other software platforms.
Yeah.
You go, we just try to take what you've done in Google Sheets and organize it better. And I was like, well, I remember looking at Steve like, I'm in because I was a Google Sheets trainer. I did everything through Google Sheets. I would print them out. I would give them 40 sheets of paper to the college basketball team. Then I would print them out and give them to the 30 kids that were training with me at night, whatever it was. And you're like, yeah, no, we're just trying to simplify your experience with Google Sheets. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Google Sheets wasn't made for coaches.
No, but that was what was free, accessible. Everyone had Google. Like, I could create it. I could create what I needed on paper, but you had already simplified that process. But early sales, like, what is it like talking to someone like, yo, you thought about using an app? And people are like,
yes.
For what? I got to do what?
Well, so we got lucky in this way, right? Like, I think just life in general is kind of equal parts hard work and luck. And I think
it's a crossroads.
For sure. You gotta be doing the thing when you get lucky. But frankly, like, we were educating the market in the early days. And to your point, like, we were the only show in town. There was no other technology that was trying to show up in a weight room and say, hey, I think actually that sheet of paper that's like bonded to the side of the rack, I think we should take that down and turn this distracting, phone into a tool. They're like, wait, a phone in a weight room? Like, get out. Like, frankly, like, we were kicked out of many conversations before they even happened. So a lot of it was trying to educate the market, and just based on so many factors and the evolution of, the iPhone and everybody having one and all these, this idea of like, even like social media and this thing being like so distracting, and coaches just kind of relent to the fact that
old school strength coaches and a cell phone in the way you're running.
You're crazy, right?
You're running. Exactly. You're kicked out. It's like, I don't want to do that. My strength coach is going to abuse me with a barbell and then an assault bike.
I mean, exactly. And so, I mean, there's just so many different things that happen to sort of just change the perspective, I think, of coaches, of athletes, of this distracting thing that just became a tool that happened beautifully at the right time for our business. But early days, it's educating the market. And frankly, there were ways to do this. Like, we used to allow people to print the session out, right? Okay, you can print one session on a sheet or 4 on a sheet. So we had to kind of meet them where they were at. But what happened is, like, there was so much value that we couldn't provide when the things were taken outside of the technology. We couldn't say, progress, right? We couldn't keep you connected to the coach. So we sort of like took a hard stance and said, no, like, we ain't for everybody. In the early days, like, you're just trying to make $1. You're trying to stay.
Yeah, you have to. I wasn't gonna ask that, but like, that is like the point, like you're saying, where you're paying customers, you're trying to meet their needs. Yeah, you're like, okay, this is what we have to kind of scale out from a private contractor to help us with certain things on the tech side. I mean, that's the sleepless nights, right? That's the thing that I was just talking with Stan Schofield, one of our Parisi affiliates in Maine, and I love saying, like, tell me about your overnight success story, because everyone's like, wow, this is so great. You're this crazy app. And you're like, yeah, it was not like that. The overnight success was exactly that. Or we moved from Chicago, we have them states. Like, you're going from the laundry room to, I'm assuming you went to a condo, unless you just moved to a different laundry room in a different state, which maybe you liked it. It's probably got some warmth there. But, those are the things that I think don't get talked about, that I find fascinating, like the founder story, right? Like, that's amazing. And it's just cool, and like the opportunity, and I've never heard the full origin story of TrainHeroic. I think that's really cool. I actually thought you played football in Colorado. I thought you, like, my origin story, if you would ask me what I knew about TrainHeroic, I was like, oh yeah, Josh, football player. They were tired of the dumb stuff they were doing in the weight room, and that's where they're like, oh, we're gonna create the tech behind it. And it sounds like it was kind of like that, but kind of not. I'll say, like, what was the first moment where you're like, this is going to work? Not necessarily like the proof of concept, But like you start something new, is this going to work? You get some clients, you get some and then you're like, either like the first moment where something happens and like there's like a quarter of growth where you're like, holy smokes. Or where you're like having the conversation with someone and you see it click and you're like, nice. Okay. This has some legs. Because I'm sure your family thought you were nuts, right? Like whatever you went to college for, like you said, you're an accountant. That's a really good career path. Yeah. It's a really good career path. Like I always tell people, if you want to start your own business, you should go for accounting in college, because that's the best skill set you can have in business. So Ben was probably just as lucky to have a money guy helping him on that side of things. But you left your career as an accountant at some point. That's not easy. People probably think you're crazy for a startup, right? That's probably what it was. But what was that like? What was the aha moment? Like, talk about that a little bit.
I think there's like, for me at least, there's various stages. My aha, the moment I knew it was going to work was the conversation that I had with Ben. So I'm like, oh, like this dude is dialed on this and he's brilliant. I'm gonna go with him. No question. I don't think it's gonna be like this in terms of a linear path, but we'll figure it out. Now, as it relates to like aha moments with customers, in the early days, I was like pulling all this data. So I'd like go into the back end and I'd be like, cool, what's their usage? I had this health report deal, right? So let's just say there's 10 customers. Okay, cool. How's UCLA using this? How's USD using, like, how are these different coaches using this? So we got really lucky in terms of being in the right places. Like we were working with like the SEALs in the early days, all these really cool accounts that have gone well.
You're going to say you trained Goggins.
And basically I made David.
So we had this one guy, Goggins, who's crazy. He was just as wild back then.
I looked at his data. No, but so you'd have all these oh shit moments where you're like, look at the data and you're like, nobody's using this thing. Nobody's using this thing, right? And so then you have to go and peel the layers back and say, why are we using this thing? Okay, cool. We're in the basement of this weight room and we have no connectivity there. Like, so okay, let's develop offline mode. So you start going. And Ben and I both, like, we just fell in love with our customer. And like the reality was like their problem and solving their problem, we became obsessed with that. And then as their problems evolved, and I'll give you an example, like just in terms of like where we've gone as a business and even just like working with Parisi, right? When we talked about like the origin, it was about helping, South High School and helping that coach and their athletes, because that was us, right? And then like I think as we got obsessed with the Casey Lees of the world, and it's like, how do we make you successful? What we found actually is, and I use kind of this example of like Ohio State. You look at this coach and he has Ohio State on his shirt and you're like, that dude has made it. And then you get into their like personal story and it's like, this dude he's not making a ton of money. And I'm just making that example with Ohio State, but it's like, he doesn't have a ton of money. He doesn't have any time with his family, his kids. And he's at the point now where he's not 25 anymore. He's 35, he's 40, and he wants like flexibility and freedom. And so that's when we evolved the platform to go from more so just being this like kind of in-facility tool to develop and optimize performance and connecting, athletes to coaches, to like helping coaches turn their passion into profit.
It's a critical, I mean, you've obviously like been a part of Parisi and things like one of the biggest selling points we have with other trainers, and this was a big piece for me to get off of Google Sheets, was it was a system, it helped cater to a system, right? My programming system, because now instead of taking 5 to 8 hours on a Sunday to make sure every client is set for the week, I'm good. Like I had all my client programs done Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I want to play into Arizona on Wednesday. I get to enjoy the summit and all the people, and I don't have to worry about work until next Sunday when I get home to start the next week. Like I was good. 3 days. Like is the best.
Yeah.
So you're saying like the freedom, and that's like the real pain point, is the evolution of any industry professional really wants, right? I'm sure you had to do the same thing, right? Like you had to, right? Because you were saying you got phone calls from your customers, your clients, and you're trying to help them, and then you had to create the product for you to work. And this is the other facet of things that I'm fast, the founder story, but then there's also the scale and the growth and kind of how your role shapes in this larger entity now. I want to kind of pivot to that concept of Josh Sutchar now is out of the laundry room. He's in Boulder with Twin Peaks, and now you have a team. Like, what has that been like for you to develop more flexibility, kind of step away so you can come to a summit, so you can go on vacation, you can start a family, do these things, and be like, okay, my baby that you grew, your teenager, is good with the babysitter while I'm doing the thing with other people.
Yeah.
Has that been like for you?
Yeah, and some of it is like just knowing that like your teenager is going to be fine if they fall down and scrape themselves, because they're going to learn.
It's a really good,
right?
It's a really good nugget right there.
Yeah.
more business owners need to tell probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you earn that. You earn that, like you're the resilient kid because you made a resilient kid, right? Versus the kid that falls and cries for the mommy and the mommy has to go run to fix it.
Yeah.
Like the babysitter's going to be able to help take care of your kid while you're out.
Mm-hmm.
These are some serious dad analogies right now. People are probably watching, listen to like, I don't have kids. I don't really get these, but the parents that have kids are like, yep, that's right. Babysitter will be able to handle it. Grandma's good. Like, I'm not coming back home right now. But so what has it been like for you as TrainHeroic has grown? Because founder, was it like I don't understand how it works. Like merger with Twin Peaks, they invested, you sold it. Like, was it an acquisition? Was it like, well, I don't get that. Like, I'm a personal trainer. So you got to kind of explain to me, like, I'm 7.
So Training Peaks invested in us initially, which is just like some investment. They were like, hey, we're going to give you the X amount of money and we'll own X amount of the business. And so that like gave us some, we'll call it like runway, right?
Yeah.
It's like, cool. We can, knowing our expenses, we can operate for the next, 3 years. Here's the plan. And then eventually we basically bundled the two together. And so like, Ben's ownership, my ownership is now in the bigger, we created a parent company. So it's in the bigger parent company.
Sure.
It doesn't really.
I know. I just didn't know because like as your job, as your career, and as TrainHeroic has grown, like how has your job changed? Because you were selling. It sounds like you were like sales guy, you were like the tech guy, and now like you're like the face of TrainHeroic. Like I didn't know about Ben. Like I know about Chelsea and I know about Josh and I know about other random people. When I email a question, I get a human being that actually talks to me. Yeah. That's what I get. But for you on the other side of things, like how have you had to adapt to a larger company? Because you don't, you create the business to structure and support your life, but there's growth in there and you have to kind of leave what you've done.
Yeah. And that's like, I'll say right now there's 100 people in the organization, right? So it's
big
and it's mostly product. It's like, of the 160 are on the product side.
Yep.
And like my personal journey and evolution has always changed. Like people are like, how do you do the same thing for 14 years? Trust me, there hasn't been like 2 years.
Yeah, I know it's not. There's no way. You don't work in a business and do the same thing every month. Like that's the question I'm asking. Yeah, Josh, is what are you like? How has that grown for you? What has been like the hardest things? If you do watch this grow, like what has been like the most, like even the things that you're like, yeah, this was easier than I thought it was going to be. Like to grow from 2 and a contractor to 100, that's scale that is, I think, harder than the startup phase.
For sure.
Right? Like, what's that like?
It's easy when it's small, right? Like I say it
fast.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, back in the day, we wanted to make a decision. Like we made a decision, right or wrong, we made a decision, but the company was always moving. It wasn't always forward, but we were always moving. Today, we're much more measured in our approach for sure, but how you do things is very different. In terms of like how it's changed for me, just learning how to let go. And, we talk about like the teenager tripping, like just trusting, like as an example, like I got here, we're at the summit and it's Saturday, right? This is the 3rd day of the summit. Typically it's like, I would be here the second this thing started. It'd be me at the booth talking to everybody, but like we have, somebody that personally, that owns the Parisi account. They're making sure that everything goes well. That's not me anymore. It used to be. And to some degree, I miss that. Like I miss the small network knowing, hey, these are our coaches. They know me. I know their kids' names. It's, and now it's to the point where it's like, there are a lot of customers and I want people to have that relationship, but it's just not always going to be with Josh. And I'll say like, it is actually tough for me.
Yeah. I didn't know until that we have like a person who owns the account.
Yeah.
You're very accessible. I tell Bill all the time, he might be the most successful CEO in the entire United States. And it's good and it's awful at the same time, but like being able to step away like that is, to me, a huge sign of growth and development to a business. Is when, like, I remember being in the health club, being the director of 37 personal trainers, and like trying to know every personal trainer's clients, and like I leave on like a Saturday, and then all of a sudden it's like the front desk is calling us, like whoa, like no, like I'm just a mid-level management, like do not treat me like an owner. I'm not an owner. I don't have a relationship with the business of an owner, but you do have the relationship with the business. Like, it's like, that's huge. That's what I think a lot of people, coaches listening to this, coaches watching this, people who are within a business, like I don't ever expect a coach to love a company like the owner does, but the owner and this is what I don't know how you've navigated this, is like, you love the product. You love everything about the relationships surrounding the product. And then you have people that you're trusting to take care of your clients who you love as a product adjacent. Like, that is not easy. But what are some things that have helped you make sure that your teenager is in good hands?
Like hiring.
Yeah.
The hiring is the magic. And I'm not saying we've figured it out, but we've made so many, again, in 14 years, like how many mistakes did you make from 0 to 14 or 14 to 28?
The overnight success. Tell me, your business of 14 years with Twin Peaks is now doing great. Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, well, I think we've gotten better hiring, which has helped us get better hiring, right? And it's like, again, a lot of this is luck, right place, right time, meet the right person who is willing and able to hear the opportunity, right? And so when you bring good people in, naturally, some of it's gravity. Some of it is like you honestly have just like brighter minds in the room to make better decisions, but you get more good people. And I think like as our internal network, the TrainHeroic team and the Training Peaks team together and collectively, even like with kind of top level, leadership with this parent company and all the kind of wisdom that they've bestowed upon us, like we've just gotten better. You bring better people on, which inherently helps us make better decisions. So
I'm gonna throw a pivot in here.
Yeah.
Because this seems to be like where your brain is a very good conceptual thought. Like, how do you see the future? I was just talking about this with Stan, actually. Like, you have the tech. Where do you see AI? Because there might be AI like TrainHeroic, but I would think that you guys are talking about it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like where just even like 30,000 foot view, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, like where do you think that future lays? Like, you have the landscape of tech. What do you think AI's future is?
Our coaches are talking about it, right? Like I was at a conference.
Yeah.
We were at, there was a local conference, so I went a couple weeks ago. The first session I went in, the professor, who was a professor at the front, loaded up ChatGPT and said, hey, learn everything that NASM has to offer, develop a training plan for this person with this injury that has this equipment in this amount of time. Okay, now, so he was teaching people how to prompt that. And I think the room was like, oh my God. I think like our perspective is in a world where, people are leaning into AI and things are, I think, becoming maybe seemingly less human. Like we're going to put the human in human performance. And so like the way that AI will complement our tools is it will take some of the bullshit that you don't like doing out of your job or give you insight into things that can lead to interventions. Because the reality is like they're training with Casey because they love Casey.
Yeah.
It's not about like the sets and reps. And that's at least our perspective. Not to say those aren't important, but can we like, there's no specific, tools implemented today that, there's not like some definite route, like, hey, this is exactly what we're going to do, but just help coaches be more human, help them scale what they're doing. Can you do this with 15 people instead of 10 because you're taking less time to create a training plan, get some insight, understand some data, there's some readiness that's off so we can alert you.
That's what I think, because I know that was, so like I hear about like AI in different industries and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I feel like in sports performance, we've had elements of AI.
For sure.
Like the readiness survey that TrainHeroic does. That might not be like quote unquote AI, but that gathers data and it's like my client is the prompt, you guys are the funnel, and then I get the result. So in a way, I feel like it's AI adjacent, but it helps me navigate the conversation. Like AI will eventually help me navigate better conversations, human to human, with my clients, but there's elements of TrainHeroic that have done that, even just like a training template, saving pre-made library programs. Like I can AI myself. Like I can try to scale me via technology, and I see AI intertwining with technology to help systemize better to support a person and like that's how it helps. I'll run this podcast through AI, and it's going to come up with a title, and it's going to write this underwrite blog. It's going to do all of that, right? Like it's supporting me in a human-to-human endeavor, which is amazing because now I don't have to take 30 minutes to write a blog, SEO, keyword it, put the title in. It's going to do all of that for me, which is amazing.
And nothing about that act is human, right? That's like you being a robot kind of.
Yeah.
And pulling a transcript together or whatever. Something like you can lean deeper into this. You're more rested for the next podcast, whatever. You can be more human. I think our approach will be the same. Like, frankly, what we ought to be able to do, and again, I'm just like kind of getting into the solution spaces above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But like, how would Casey want to talk to somebody that doesn't show up for their session, at least through TrainHeroic? Hey, yo, John, you missed the session, or maybe you missed logging it. Like, can we automate some of those things so you don't need to be doing this? So you can be hanging out with Emerson.
You guys have a chatbot That's AI.
Yeah.
That was like early AI.
Yeah.
I was joking with a friend of mine, like, do you remember Microsoft Documents, the paperclip?
Yes, the B Clippy.
Yeah. I'm like, Clippy,
One of the greatest inventions.
Clippy's been around.
Yeah.
We've had AI for years. I grew up in the 90s with AI. What are we talking about? Why? I need Clippy to come back, just bigger and better. But that's what I envision, right? Like, I'm like, we've had chatbots. Why are like people in the industry like, we don't need to be scared of AI. Like, oh my God, it's going to replace us. It's not going to. You know, like that's with different tech platforms. Like they're all different. They may look the same. They're all different.
Yeah.
They're all different in how they integrate. Like that's the thing. Like AI probably will help TrainHeroic integrate with my payment software better, and then with my email reply funnel for the people who did miss the session, or I'll get like an email reply from TrainHeroic says like, "Hi Casey, you've had 17 clients and 3 of them missed their sessions and 17 did workouts yesterday. You should reach out to so and so." Like it's going to systemize and support better. That was really the best question, but I think it's something that
people are thinking about it.
People ask about it. The future of AI in sports performance, like it's going to be awesome, right? Because we look at a human to human business and industry. Like it can never replace human to human, but it can support the humans to human.
Yeah,
that's a big piece.
And I don't want to make light of, because AI is incredibly powerful and it's exponential. It keeps getting. I mean, you listen and learn and look at some of these things, you're like, holy cow, this is really cool. And there's a couple ways to think of it, but like when I think of our industry and our coaches have only gotten better when they've adapted, and utilized new tools. And that's all this. I mean, again, I don't want to be like just gloss over it, but that's what this is. It's a new tool for coaches and frankly a bunch of industries, and we'll adapt and evolve who we are and how we are based on how that like supplements our interactions with people. So I'm fired up about it. And when I talk about being lucky, like think about being intent and then having something like AI that you can bolt onto your technology. It's like huge, really nice.
That's huge. Can I ask you a quick Chicago question to close us out?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a chocolate milkshake? Yeah?
Yeah. Show me it.
We're gonna leave it at that. That's the story. We'll talk after. But it's just when in Chicago.
I frankly have never been there for that.
Really?
Yes. I know of it.
I've been there, and wow, I had no idea.
I've like lived it in my mind.
And I just all I know is I was told I was getting a chocolate shake.
Do you actually end up with the chocolate shake at the end of it?
No, and that's the worst part. I ended up with a chocolate shake, but it was not the one that I thought I was getting. And I left there disgruntled because I was hungry.
Yeah. And you can never unsee that.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't unsee it. You can try, but you can't unsee it. We're just going to leave that one. That's how we're going to end this one.
Love it, man.
That's my Chicago question. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.